Good morning. Aloha. Man, I'll tell you. I remember the first time I came here about 8.5 years ago, and I, of course, fell in love with the country of Hawaii, the sovereign nation. I fell in love with the people because, and you guys, I mean, what's happened in the last day and a half since I've been here, what you guys have done. Thank goodness I don't weigh 400 pounds, because I'm telling you what they're doing is is not nice. They say, you need to eat. And I was like, what, do I look sick or something? I mean, no, but I'll tell you what, the graciousness that we've been exposed to and experienced has been overwhelming. And I just want to say thank you for that. And I hope what we impart to you today is going to be something that you take to heart and you use. The 1-1 didn't want to come out. But like I said, we fell in love with Hawaii and the people. And I got to tell you, we've been so blessed by what we've seen and what we've experienced. And we lived here for 5 years. We lived up in Wailua for a while, and then over on Big Island. I like it better here for a lot of reasons. But, you know, it's been an interesting journey. Every one of us here have a story to tell, and sometimes it's not pretty, and she's already told you this, but I got to tell you, I grew up Mexican. I used to be Mexican, okay. So las cosas que vamos a hacer este día es vamos a hablar de cosas que van a hacer la vida más mejor, okay. And everybody goes, Ándale! And when I was over in, doing these seminars, it's just, I'll tell you the journey. And she's probably told you this, but I got to tell you what happened. Yes. In my heart, since I was little, growing up being Mexican, used to be, I mean, God put something in my heart, you know, and it's like this feeling of justice, that I don't like wrongdoing, I don't like people being taken advantage of. You stand for something. You know, I used to watch, and this is really funny that they did this to me. Where's Craig at? There he is, Craig. Superman. I didn't say that exactly right, but, you know, I grew up watching, you know, the superheroes. I loved Superman, I got to tell you. I loved Superman. You know why? The guy he was a real man. He stood up for what was right. He acted right. He helped people. And you've heard of a Superman. His name was Yeshua, which we call Jesus. And he stood up for what was right and did what was right. And he used a word that, if you study the scriptures, he used a word called compassion. Now, we don't understand what that word is because our language has been watered down. It's been polluted, diluted, and ruined. Compassion comes from two Latin words with love of action, okay? Jesus had compassion on the people. So what did that mean? He did something. It was not a feeling. He did something. And so in my heart, after watching all these cartoons, watching things of Superman, I mean, I tell you, if I wanted to do anything, I wanted to grow up and be Superman. And when you said that to me, it humbled me and blessed me from being a little kid. And I was a little skinny kid too, if you've met a lot of the Mexicans. And then I stopped being Mexican and I gained weight. And so I saw the injustices in the world from the time I was little, and we're all exposed to these things. And at some point in time, one of two things happens to you. In your heart, you say, enough is enough, I'm going to make a difference, I'm going to stand up. Or what you do is you watch it as it happens, and you say, oh, that's too bad, and you become part of it, you become an accomplice. And you're going to hear language today, because language is how they do it to us. Language is how it all happens. Speaking is how it all happens. So as I get started in this, you're going to get a lot of information, and I hope you take it all in. It's going to be a lot. Vamos a comer un burrito grande. We're going to eat a huge burrito today. Okay, or they say like an enchilada, you know, eat the whole enchilada. That's what we're going to do. It's going to be huge. And you're going to have to revisit the things I talk about. You're going to look into your own soul, because you're going to find out whether you're part of the problem or you're going to be part of the solution. And I'll tell you, being part of the solution is not an easy deal, because people will frustrate you. Your brothers and sisters will frustrate you. Your parents will frustrate you. Your children will frustrate you. Your neighbors will frustrate you. People you love will frustrate you. Forget the people you don't like. There's a lot of them we don't like. You know, so we say, we just don't like things that they do. But the reality is, at the end of the day, when you lay down your head at night, two things will happen. Your heart will hurt because of what you see, but you'll have a peace in your heart knowing that you did all you could do that day, that you did one thing that made a difference to affect somebody's life. And that's what Superman is all about. That's what Yeshua is all about. That's what the scriptures are all about, is that you're going to have an opportunity every day to do something to make a difference. And will you do it? Well, if you're not armed and dangerous, in case you don't know this, we're at war. We are at war. It says it in the scriptures, we're at war. Okay, and most people like to put their head in the sand, and thank goodness, you know, in Las Vegas they have a lot of sand, we just don't have water, you know. People put their head in the sand all the time. They just let things go by, and they say that's okay. But you have to wake up someday, and you're going to pick a side. And let's hope you pick the right side. And don't think it's going to be easy, because it's not going to be easy. Jesus himself said, you know, Lord, please, if it is possible for you to take this cup away from me, please do it. And he said, I know that you will not. Because he knew that was his calling. And the things that you go through in life, and I mean, I love the language, the colorful language of the people of Hawaii. They like to talk story. Okay? Talk story is a good thing, because where do you think the word history came from? Story. It's a story. They're all part of it. We're all an intricate part of it. So as I get started here, we'll just open with that here, and then we're gonna go to the beginning. So I'm gonna pass these things out here, because I don't want you to do a ton of writing. You can write on these things, and God bless you for doing this. Pass these around. I'll keep one for me to cheat with. And these are coming around. I want you to just follow along, take notes if you like. But I was, at the hotel, they have these things here, right? It says Holy Bible. Now, we get into trouble with some of this stuff, because we talk about the Holy Bible, and we see all these different names on them, right? There's like the Geneva, the St. James, King James. There's the Standard Version, New Age Living, all these different names for the scriptures, and they keep changing stuff in here. And you got to realize, when they do that, there's an effect. The effect is that there's a language change, and when you and I talk about blue means something different to you than maybe to me. So when he says blue, and we got a room of people like this, blue means something different to everybody. Blue may mean the color of somebody's eyes. Blue may mean the color of the ocean on a nice sunny day. Blue may mean the color of the sky. But blue means something different. So we had to come up with operational definitions. And so what's happened, what's brought you to where you are today, is the limited understanding that we all have about language. Now they did it to us. Dustin's not in here. We were talking about pidgin, right? How that came up over here in the islands, pidgin language. Okay, and we talked about like Portuguese and different languages out there. Well, all these things are different, and they're all created, but you know what? We've got to be able to communicate with one another so we know what we say. So we'll start here with this, and I'm not going to pick a version or anything like that. I mean, if anybody picks a version of this, you are SOL. Sorry, out of luck. Okay, somebody's like, oh, did he just say what I think he said? Yes, I said sorry. And anyway, so you open this book up and you start reading it, and I like a lot of things in there. I'm not an avid church goer, so don't hold that against me. I have a strong relationship with my God and His Son. because I realize there's some interesting things going on out there, that there is an enemy. And if we have an enemy will war against you. So everybody got one of those things now? I put a lot of work into this, even though you don't think so. When you look at this, I'm telling you what, I've had numerous headaches getting this done. In the beginning was God. I like this. You know, when I looked at this, I had a peace about this. I was like, oh, there's a God. Thank goodness. He's not a God I could put on the table. I couldn't put him in my front yard. There is a God. And how do you know? And I get into arguments very rarely anymore about this. I say, I am not even going to debate this with you, that there is a God. You know why? Look in the mirror and tell me there's not something greater than you. True. Does God have to add a few pounds, lose a few pounds, color his hair, hit the gym a little more often? No. When you look at yourself, you see imperfection. We, of course, see things that we like, but I'll tell you, there's no imperfection here. So if there is a God, there has to be some things that are associated with God. So in the beginning was God. Right? Doesn't that give you a peace somehow? If there's a God, let's talk about some conditions with God. God has to have what's called a jurisdiction. Okay, you'll see that on your sheet. Jurisdiction, man, I get excited about it. You know what this comes from? 2 Latin words. Juris dictum, words of law. Jurisdiction. How many times do we hear this all the time? We go, what does jurisdiction mean? You're under my jurisdiction. You're under my jurisdiction. I mean, I don't want to be under anybody's jurisdiction but one God. And if he's perfect, that means he has perfect words of law. It follows logically. And these things become what are called maxims of law. They are irrefutable, unarguable fact. That's what a fact is, irrefutable and unarguable. So we've got this right here. We've got God. God has a jurisdiction, okay? So what did he do? His jurisdiction has to be, his words of law have to be what? Permanent. Okay? As I was like going, whew. I remember when I was growing up and I was taking math classes, I remember they did this one thing called, in this one class, I was like 8 years old, they said, we're going to have new math. I heard that, it terrified me. I was like, new math? Holy, if it's new, that means it just totally wiped out what was old. That means, who learned it? Where did it come from? And now I have to learn new math? Oh no. And by the way, I loved math. I mean, my wife has a joke. She says, numbers are your friends. Because when we do things, calculation stuff, I remember stuff with numbers because they're like people to me. That like numbers have characteristics and they become like people to me. It's like I remember these. How do you remember those numbers? I was like, they're like friends, like little buddies. It's like, ooh. I loved math. I mean, I took a calculus, advanced calculus, all that stuff, analytical geometry, trigonometry, all the ometries and, whatever those things were. And I loved it. I loved math. I was like, ooh, I couldn't get it. I took statistics for 5 years. I loved it. I was like, God, eat this stuff up. I'm psychotic, Anyway, so everything, I forget where I was going with that one, but it was good. Hope you enjoyed that little break there. So here's what God did. So we got this perfect God, and God has a perfect attitude. And what did he do? He's got the words of law. That means if he's perfect, everything he does is perfect. And one of the things he did was this. He created you and I. As what? As what?
In an image of himself.
In the image of himself. In the image of himself. The image of himself. Did he make us little hymns, or in the image of? In the image of. In the image of means the mechanics. You heard this word? Machinations or machine. You heard that? Remember, this is language. This is what they don't want you to know. Imagination comes from the Latin word imagination, which means to be mechanically like. Image of. All characteristics of, but not exactly. In the image of. Now what did he tell us to do? He created an earth, right? What did he do when he said, it's in the beginning of the book. After it says God is the beginning, right? In the beginning there was God. God was the Word was with God. All that. You guys know some of this, right? We okay? We okay? Well, he said when he looked at there and he says, okay, it's dark. There was darkness across the firmament or whatever. And he said, what did he say? Let there be what? And what happened? And there was light. He spoke it. Now, one of the versions of the Bible I've read, we used to do Bible studies and all that, it said, the words of the mouth produce a result as surely as the hands that labor. That was like, wow. The words of the mouth produce a result as surely as the hands that labor. I got excited about that. I was like going, oh my gosh. I said, you know what that means? We create from here. And from the abundance of the heart we speak. Now this is not church. This is not Bible study. This is business. You're going to find out it's all business. But business comes from two Latin words. The things that occupy your time and your heart. The things that keep you busy. Right? That make you feel better? We have these confusions because of language, and I studied language. I took Latin. I studied Latin. I spoke Spanish. My first language was Spanish. Arriba, arriba, ándale. And I lived in Mexico, Can you imagine me as a little kid, 2 years old, blonde hair? It darkened up after a while. And all my brothers and sisters, they look Mexican. They're like this tall, Mexican looking. And then there's me, I'm like 100 pounds heavier. I was like, what happened? I said, I was more hungry. Me gustaría comer más. I wanted to eat more, and then you were making me pay last night. Fred, eat some more. I'm like going, I'm breathing, man. Breathing. What do pregnant women do? 3 more bites. 3 more. Okay, but God created us in His image, and I'll move along here. And He said, go out into there. So He spoke this. He spoke this, and He gave us everything in His image to do these things that He's done. He spoke this. And what did He tell us to do? He created the earth and all the living things in it, and what did He tell us to do? Go forth and multiply. But what did He tell us to do over the earth? Have dominion over it. Dominion. Where does that come from? Latin words. Domini, God. Be gods over what I have created. Now, what does that mean? Some people change the language to subdue. They didn't say subdue it. He said, have dominion over. As if I was standing there. We're in His image, standing over this. That means we got to do the same thing He would do if He was here, which He is here. We would do the same thing. Which means like what? Protect the lands, protect the people. We get into trouble with this stuff here because it's not all about you. You got to understand who you are first, and that's called status. Status, state. That which allows you to exist, what is it? So that's the status. Who are you? Well, you know who you are now. Ooh, some people don't like that. Some people looking at it wrong. Remember, one of the great things that God had done, what He's done for us, He gave us 2 things. If there is light, what is the other side? Darkness. So is there in between? No. Is there good? What's the opposite of good? Bad, evil, right? So what God did, and Jesus says this in the New Testament, He says, I come as a sword, a very sharp sword, to do what? Dichotomize, to cut in two. There's truth, and there's what? The lie. There's honor, there's dishonor. There's good, there's bad. Everything God did is He dichotomized it. And a lot of us don't look at the world that way. What they don't, there's forces out there that want to make you think that there's something called a gray area. Now, is there such a thing as a gray area? Absolutely not. There's respect and what? Disrespect. Everything in the natural world is dichotomized. You're either living or you're what? Okay. You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. I thought somebody was going to say unpregnant. I was like, wait a minute. Make me go back to school on this one. So everything God did in this world, He dichotomized it. Now this is a big one. This is a big one. I've spent a lot of time on this, and I came to an understanding because of some people in Connecticut. Why don't they say it the way it's spelled? Arkansas versus Arkansas? Connecticut instead of Connecticut? It's like, that's what screws people up. You spell it, we have enough problems, right? Don't make us do that. But he says, the opposite of love is it really hate? Or is it fear? Love and fear. What does fear do?
Perfect love casts out fear.
There you go. And then there's a lot of things they screw up here in the Bible here with the scriptures and everything like that. They said, are we supposed to fear God or love God? We're supposed to love God. How do I know? If you love something, you will do that which is honorable. Does that make sense? If you're afraid of it, what will you do? That which is dishonorable. And so I thought about that. I said, oh my gosh, I said all this time, I don't want to be a God-fearing Christian. I don't want to be a Bible-believing Christian. I want to be a God-loving Christian. I don't even want to say the word Christian, because if you read the history of the word, I'm a God-loving believer in the Son and His Father. I believe that I have a Savior, that I have salvation. I believe that there's a God, the Holy Father, who loves me. Anybody here parents? Nobody else? Just me? We got a couple. You don't have kids? You don't have any? You want to rent some? Okay, we have 8 kids. Everybody's like, oh, well, that's 8? And they go like, how many women? And I go, well, what do you mean? They're like, there's like they're growing up into women, the younger girls, but there's only one woman that had them all. And it was an evil thing, yes, for her to do that to me. You know, we go on a no, you just look under the table every night at dinner time and count the feet and go, oh my gosh, they'll all be here for breakfast. But I'll tell you, I love my kids. I love my kids with all my heart. And the reason God gives us kids is to let us know a little bit more of what it is to be in His image. No greater gift hath any man than this, than he lay down his life for a friend. Or how much more would you do for your own children? I'll tell you, there's nothing I wouldn't do that's honorable and good for my kids. And the first thing and first and foremost is to be the right kind of person, the right kind of man, the right kind of father. Which means there's a lot of things that I don't do, that I have the choice of doing. If it does not bring honor to my Father, then how can I bring honor to my children and my family if I don't do the right thing? Did I say I was perfect? No. He's perfect, I'm not. I'm in His image. A mini-me. And so you got to know who you are, what your status is, and what does that mean? There's words you're going to have to look at that are going to have to make a difference to who and what you are, what you stand for. If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. And I'll tell you, it's not easy, it's hard. Every day before I go to bed, before I fall asleep, actually while I'm in bed, I pray. You know what my first part of my prayer is every single night? Is God, thank you for the many blessings you've given me this day, the ones that I've seen and the ones I haven't seen. And I pray, dear Father, please, forgive me for all the sins I've committed this day, the ones knowingly and unknowingly. You know how hard that is? You know what that does? That keeps you humble. Because I remember my status, my state of existence, who I am. And I know my failings and my weaknesses. All I do every day is work hard to get better. This is the only time and point where I ever disagree with Yoda. You know who Yoda is? Oh, good he is. He says this is his try not, do not. There is no try. Well, I'm sorry, in working towards perfection, all you can do is try. All you do is put forth your best effort. And you know what? It's an ongoing process. You know? And so you live and learn. So you know who your status is, who you're supposed to be like. Part of your status is this, and your status is this, is He made us sovereign. Sovereign is a great word. It comes from two Latin words. Sobre la reine. Above those that rule. So can anybody come between us and God? Can anyone, anything come between you and your Creator? That's a yes or no. Help me out here. Come on. No. Cannot. Will not. No such thing. Nothing possible. Can a government come between you and God? No, they can't. I'm going to help you with that one. Can anything come this is what He says. God made us sovereign. He made us sovereign. And you know who screwed all this up? Was people. What did the Hebrews do? The Israelites do? What do they cry about? We want a king. Everybody else has got a king. We want a king. Can you believe this? And God's going in a big booming voice, hey, I'm right here with you. You don't need a king. Yeah, God, but look, those evil people, they got a king. We need a king. We want to dance around and say, we have king too. God says, fine, fine, my chosen ones. I will give you a king. You know who the first king was, right? King Saul. Was he a kind-hearted, loving, benevolent man? He was brutal. And he says, this is what a king is like. You don't want a king. So they got one anyway. And then they lamented the fact that they had one. And I'm telling you what, because man in a position of God screws things up. Period. No matter how hard we work to try and do the best and the right thing, guess what? We fail and pale in comparison to what He would do. So we are all personally sponsored. That is part of our status. And so God gives us some guidelines, some notification. People, hey, this is who you are. Isn't it enough that I let you know you were created in my image, in our image? Isn't that enough? I have a short memory. I need a little more help. I get busy. The cat threw up on the rug. I forgot. You think about the woes we have in life. It's like, oh, all the things we have is like, hey, God does this to you. I'm a father, right? 8 kids. And my youngest one, Tonio, our youngest one, I'll give her credit too. Our youngest one is 9. He's going to be 10. Our oldest one's going to be 28 here in just a few days. And and my dad is gone. And I look at my kids through these ages, and you know what I notice? They still need me. Oldest one had a situation come up here a couple months ago. He purchased a computer on eBay, and the guy stole his money. And my son, he does all right, works for himself. I don't believe in jobs, because I think that refers to Job in the Bible, the bad part. You have a Job? Oh, yeah, I do. Let me tell you about my Job. I'll get in that. That's funny, ha-ha, ha-ha, ha-ha. Or in Spanish, ándale arriba, qué chiste, hombre. To help you out, okay. This side of the room is getting it. And anyway, so I look at things to go through. I says, Freddie, this is what you need to do. You hear what I said? Freddie, this is what you need to do. Because he was just going to let it go and just go, be mad about it. I said, no. I said, because whoever did this to you did this with an intent. They knew what they were doing. They did it with an intention. And they stole your labors from you, your time from you. So this is what you need to do. And he said, okay, Dad. And then he starts getting everything done. I help him find the guy, you know. Yeah, I have some interesting skills and talents. Okay. So now the guy's gonna he's gonna have to pay him the money back or give him the computer that he purchased. Why? Is that fair? Is that honorable? Yeah, it's honorable. You don't do that to people. So anyway, all the way down to my littlest one. So I help him out with things on the legal end and stuff like that. Other things, ideas in life, you know, picking a mate and so on like that. All the way down to my littlest one, Antonio. And I have girls and boys, all mixed ages. Our kids do not fight like most siblings. Oh my gosh, the kids are fighting. Really? I say, what's going on in your home if your kids are fighting? In my house, my kids don't fight. You know why? Because I've taught them not to. If they start getting a little out of line, I hear things get elevated, I go, hey! What did that do to you? Bowel checking, bladder checking. Okay, that was close. Everything shut right down when you said that. So I just say that, just hey, one word. All my kids are like, oh, did they get paddles as they grew up? Yeah. They never got more than 4. And what I'd do is I'd take them and pinch them between my legs, their legs, and I'd say, you know what, you messed up. I told you and I told you. You wouldn't listen to me. And I said, you know what, it breaks my heart I have to do this to you. I talk to them, I bend them over, so you know how to properly discipline your children. And I roll their shirt up and I go, and then I rub it out. I said, please, don't put me in this position again. I love you. Do you understand? They're like, ah! Ah! 4 of those, you're good for life. Because when they're this tall and they got this coming at them, you know, and then the gorilla behind it, people say, oh, that is evil. I said, you haven't met my kids. You meet my kids. You come into a restaurant and we come walking in and people are going, oh my gosh, a school bus pulled up and all these kids are coming, oh no, we're going to have the most miserable meal we've ever had in our life because they're going to be screaming and fighting and throwing food. And without exception, people have come up to us afterwards and said, you know what, I just have to tell you that when we saw you coming in, we thought we were going to have this kind of an experience. You have the most well-behaved, fun-loving children we have ever seen. From the littlest to the oldest. Why? Because that's what I taught them. Now here's what happens with this, because as a parent, remember your status and you know who you are, right? Who has the obligation to educate and raise your children? Exactly. Not a public school system, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute. God says, I have entrusted with you. What does that mean? I have given my trust inside of you to do this. I have put you within the bounds of my trust to do something. So we have an obligation. I don't care whether you're a grandparent, great-grandparent, parent, or on your way to being one of the above. You have an obligation to impart the proper knowledge from this right jurisdiction. Okay? Now, what does this allow us to do also as part of our status of being sovereign? We have the right to be private. Okay? What does private mean? I cannot read your thoughts. I might want to. I might want to. I may not want to. But I can't. You have the right to be private. Isn't that nice? Because sometimes our thoughts run away with us. Do they not? It's like, you know, you get angry and what do we want to do? Oh, I so want to get my hands on you. Oh, if I could get a hold of that person. Ugh. So we have the right to be private. Because that spares us a lot of things. It gives us a chance to think. Privacy allows you to do things and create things and be personally involved. See, this is what privacy does. It allows you to become personally involved in the world God created and how you play the role in what He created. He allows you to be personally involved, and you can only do that if you're private. If you're not private, what does that mean? Somebody else is the puppeteer, right? So you have to be private. These things are natural. They're innate. You can't change any of that. In order to function in this area here, guess what happens? You have to have something called rights. I loved rights. You know, this is funny. I did this at a seminar one time. I said, "What's the opposite of rights?" And somebody said, "Lefts." I was like, yes. It's a good thing you're private, because that's how God's allowing you to be creative in the world, is to deal with the lefts of the world and not the rights of the world. You have rights. The rights means very simply that you actually have the possession of ability to act independently and creatively and think independently and creatively in your world. You have the rights. God handed you over the paperwork and the keys and says, you have the rights. No restriction. No restriction. But when you look at the jurisdiction, I mean, we do have some restrictions. Restrictions under His jurisdiction. Okay? He says, in order to function in all this here, you have to be moral. Again, it's applied to jurisdiction. You have a moral jurisdiction, which means based on all this stuff here, the way you live your life, with the rights you have these rights to do whatever you want, so long as it's moral. Okay? This gets more fun. You guys having fun yet, or am I boring you to tears? Do you want me to start speaking another language? Because I can do that if you like. I'll tell you a story. I like to tell this story because of my name, right? My name is Fred Gutierrez, or Federico Roberto Gutierrez, Junior. And because it's customary to name the second son after the father. And I was, the first son's named after the grandfather. And so here I was, oh my gosh. Some guy, we did a meeting in Vegas back in August last year. And here's these two guys, right? Talking at the door. And I'm standing like probably from me to you from them. And they go, a freedom seminar? We're going to come listen to some little Mexican guy talk to us about freedom? What did he do? Swim the river and get over here? Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. I said, hey, that's a good one. That's a good one. They said, yeah. He said, here we are. We got a Mexican talking about freedom. Well, this is too funny. I said, that is a very nice take on that. I was laughing with him. Okay? And then I went to the back of the room. We had like 50, 60 people there. And I was introduced to come up. And I walked up there. I said, hola, ¿cómo estás, amigos? And these guys were like, I didn't have to say anything more. You see how people make the mistakes? I'm the little Mexican guy that was going to speak, and they're like, oh, we were just kidding. We were just kidding, Fred. I said, of course you were. I was laughing with you. Don't you remember? I thought that was great. You had some great lines. I'm going to steal them from you. Oh, no problem. Share them with everybody. Okay. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about rights that we have. And here's what we did. As more and more people started populating the earth, God knew that we were going to screw it up, because He put a different spirit down here. He created something called an enemy, Satan, right? The opposite of good, evil, right? And so He gave us all this stuff here, and He says, you know what? As you go through history, try and do the right thing. Try and come to me, stand before me, and everything will be okay, because I will give you conscience. Okay, conscience, two Latin words. With science. What is science? What is a science? A science is an awareness and understanding of the way things work. That's what a science is. And that's what happened. So we have all these things here. And so what he said was this, and here's what our founding fathers did. What we did is we created something called the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution was created from the people to mirror God's law. his jurisdiction, the things here, and to have an understanding that we as people, you understand what was happening a couple hundred years ago, 250 years ago, and we're kind of in the same state today. And the brightest minds of the colonies got together and said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create this Constitution. And what this Constitution is going to do is it's going to outline and everything here that is based on God's rule and law. Everything here is going to be based right here in words. And it will give us a jurisdiction. And we will call this Constitution the supreme law of the land. Now, pay attention to that word there, law of the land. We have enough room to do all this stuff here. Supreme law of the land. And in so doing, because people have a tendency to complicate things, they said, we're going to have to spell everything out. Now, I started with words. I started with blue, right? Remember blue? Blue means something different to everybody. So does white. By the way, I've never seen a white person. Have you ever seen anybody, can I borrow this, that was white? Close to it? I've seen people look pretty pasty, you know. But white means the absence of color. I haven't seen anybody that was with absence of color because I think that would be invisible. Okay? So the Constitution was created by the people. And the very important point here, God created everything, including His Word, and we, in His image, created the Constitution. Is that which is created a maxim of law? Can this which is created can ever become more powerful than that which created it? Can it ever become more powerful? No. Can the Constitution become more powerful than the people? No, because it says in its language that the sovereignty resides in the people, whether one or many. The sovereignty resides here. And all authority and power reside with the people. So whatever we create can never become more powerful than that which created us. This is where people, you understand there's maxims of law. There's logic that follows and flows to keep life simple, because no matter how smart you think you are, no matter how technologically advanced you think you might be, I'd wager, since I come from Vegas and I don't bet, but I would put money on this, that no one out of thin air can create one thin blade of grass. Think about that. With all the technologies we have, can any one person go, blade of grass, out of thin air? Isn't that funny? One simple thing. How about create a mustard seed out of nothing, which is supposed to be the smallest seed? I've seen small seeds before. I have chia. Those are small. In case you haven't seen President Obama chia, you know. If you guys ever watch TV, that's pretty funny, by the way. I laughed on that one. Chia Obama. So you think about these rights, everything like here. So the Constitution was created because, let me give you a scenario here, and this is why you need to understand history. This is the power of history. This is why I start at the beginning. Because if you don't start history at the beginning, then you're clueless. If you come into the middle of the game, if all you know about the world is from when you were born, oh man, I'll tell you what, it's not just like one's born every minute and two to take him. It's like there's a lot of them going to take you. You got to pay attention to history. So I like to pay attention to history, and I like to go back to the beginning. In the beginning, that's why I start here. In the beginning, oh good, I won't miss a thing. I'll start at the beginning, I won't miss anything. I'll catch it all. So you go back 250 years ago, and this had nothing to do with Hawaii, or Hawaii, however you guys like to say it. I hope you guys have a passion for your history. Hope you have a passion. Because I have one heck of a passion for my history. I'm going to tell you about that this momentarily. It is very, very good, and I like it a lot. Mucho, mucho, mucho. So you got to study history. So here's what happened. Over in the colonies 250 years ago, there was a guy in England they called King George. King George was not a nice guy. He was actually from Germany, which makes it even worse. Okay? It would have been even more worse if he was from France. Oh, sorry. It's okay, they like Mexicans, it's all good. So here's what happened. King George was in debt. In debt? A king in debt? How'd that happen? You have to study your history. Oh, yeah. But here's what he did. He says, okay, all these people, anybody ever hear about the Pilgrims? The Pilgrims. Here's what these people did. They said, we are so sick and tired of what's happening over in England. We're going to pull our money together. We're going to hire a guy that has a ship and have him take us over to the new land. This is the end of the 1500s. We know they've heard about the new land because that's when they had a new awakening that the world wasn't flat. Okay, which was in the 1590s. They said, oh my gosh, Columbus, you idiot. Can you imagine taking bets on this one? All the sophisticated intellectuals going, guess what? The world is flat. And he's going to go over here and he's going to fall off the edge. I'm going to put my money on the flat earth that he will not come back. Everybody's going, yeah. But Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, who were young at the time, said, hey, we got cash. We just whipped the English Armada. Bingo, we're going to put money on Columbus. Let's get his ships already in the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Let's send him over there. And you know what? All these guys going, she's young. She does not know. He's going to fall off. And they were laughing. Well, after so many months, Columbus came back. Now, the only reason they believed that he actually went to the New World, was because he brought stuff back they had never seen. That's the only reason they knew, because what happened if his ships were empty? Oh, they went partying, man. They hung out somewhere near the north of Africa and they come back. You liar! There's one guy, his name was Bucktooth Bob. And so when they came in, they said, oh, go away, run away, he's coming back and those ships are full. He didn't really say that. There was no Bucktooth Bob. It was like, that wasn't in my history book. So he came back, and I'm telling you what, the whole place freaked out. All of Spain went crazy because they said he discovered the New World. He brought back the natives from there. He brought back all kinds of things. So everybody was like, oh my gosh. And the one argument this one guy had said, maybe it's flat just a little bit farther than where we thought it was. Okay? And that, of course, was dispelled years later when they went around, circumnavigated the globe, and brought back stuff from from the east. And everybody goes, uh-oh, he's not flat for sure. So these guys, anyway, all these things happened. And so the Pilgrims about this time had heard about all this, and they said, you know what, we don't want to be here, we want to go to the New World. The New World where we don't have the oppressions of governments, we don't have the tyrannies of kings. Okay, so did you hear everybody run around saying, oh, we have a great king, I sure love the king? You know, they didn't. The king says, you look in my eyes, you die. You did not look in the king's eyes. You come to him like this, and you leave like that. And you talk like this the whole time. Because they were the ones that reigned and were called La Reina or La Reina or El Rey, the king or the queen. We're above those that reign. Is that a powerful thing? That's in the scriptures. So when the kings were around, when King George was saying all these things, I'm not going to go through the whole history of a lot of this stuff because it's fascinating, but you don't need to worry about it right now because we don't have the time. That's why you start from the beginning and go forward. But so King James, or not King James, I got stories to tell about him too. I hate him. In case you don't know, if you're running around with a King James Bible, why are you promoting King James when you don't know anything about him? The guy was a flaming homo. That's okay if he wants to be because it's a freedom thing. Have no problems with that. Just don't bring it near me or my kids. Because why? I have to be moral. Do whatever you want to do. That's your right. Morality means you don't impose the wrong things on the wrong people, on other people. So King George, not King James, King George V, here's what he'd do. Call him G5. Yo, G5 here, sitting on the throne in England, 1758. Those colonists, they got some coin happening over there, man. Things are looking good. We got money happening. Got all these people working. Let's tax them, man, because I got to pay me some bills. And that's what he did. So the colonists, the pilgrims who all came over there and spent 150 years developing the country, then King George steps in and says, okay, everybody's going to start paying us because you originated from England or wherever. We're calling this ours. So the New World now had a new owner. Can you imagine that? And King George had to, in order to make the colonies work, what he had to do was this. He'd come up to you, JJ, and say, I've got a governor here. Actually, I'm going to make you a governor because I'm the king, and I can trust you because I know the level of corruption you have. You have pride and passion in your heart, and you like the finer things of life. So here's what I'm going to have you do. You're going to collect money from people, and I'm going to give you all this power. I'm going to create you a mini-me, as a mini-me. I'm going to create you in my image. And here's what I'm going to allow you to do. Full authority here. Isn't this scary? Power in the wrong hands. And so JJ is going to say, oh, you mean I can do what? Okay, cool. And King says, I'm going to give you 20% of everything you collect. And whatever you collect on your own is yours. So JJ comes down here and goes, you pretty. Give me $1. She's going to say, you know what? I like the stuff you have. And you know what? You're going to give it to me. And what are you going to say? Sure. You're the governor. Because if you say no, what was your name? Leana. Con mucho gusto. That means it's a pleasure to meet you. You're like, what did he say? So here's the thing. Come to you and say, okay, well, I like what you have, I'm going to take it. Or if you deny me, I'm going to throw you in jail and I'm going to leave you there until I get around to having a trial. And because JJ is so busy, she forgets that, Liana, she forgets that you're there for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Oh well. Let's see if she's so pretty now. Let's see if she has anything now, because I took everything. And this is what happens when you don't have compassion. And so what he did, now you understand, it wasn't just Leanna. Thank goodness you're young, you didn't have to experience that. I only picked you because I know you're tough. Okay? Really, we wouldn't do that to you. You'd find an army of people standing up to protect you. And I'm going to go over that in just a minute. Because it's all based on the jurisdiction that we're under and the morality and the rights that we have. It's going to get more fun. You guys okay so far? Are you guys ready for a break? Huh? Some people are going, yes, I gotta go. Please hurry. Eyeballs are turning yellow. Okay? So anyway, so that's what happened. So the king put governors all across the 13 colonies. These colonies all had governors, they had mayors, they had all these people that worked for the king. So you can imagine how corrupt that system was. Kind of like what we have today. And so finally one day, we created the Declaration of Independence, and the people said, enough is enough. And God made us in His image. They had these conversations, and they created this thing called the Constitution. Okay, and I just have a little portable copy I carry around with me. The original document doesn't look anything like this, okay? Just so you don't think somebody took a photocopy and says, hey, U.S. Constitution. They created the Constitution. Now here's what's amazing to me. What is it? How many people have read it? Couple? How many people have read it more than 10 times? How many people have referred to it as a point in law and understanding? How many people have done that? Very few. You know why? Because if you don't know this, if you don't believe this, you will not stand on it. Now here's what this is here. Let's pretend like this is land right here, right? Terra firma. Okay? You guys, we doing good so far? Milton. What's up, brother? So you guys following me so far? So what we ended up doing is creating this thing. Our forefathers created the United States Constitution as the supreme law of the land, all based on everything here. Now, if you've never tested it as the supreme law of the land, then you don't believe it. And so what you do is you go, oh, this is the Constitution. It's a nice idea. I think I've read it maybe once or twice. I've looked at it on TV. There was actually a special that had numerous commercial breaks. I, of course, did not make it back to see most of it. I did go to public school, and they talked about the Constitution. So you don't even know what it is. Is that an accident? That was on purpose. There are no accidents. Are no accidents. And so what ended up happening is, I studied it in high school, and I hated the class. And the only way I could get my D eliminated was I had to be involved with the debate club, right? My teacher says, Fred, we need people on the debate club, and I will not give you a D. I'll bump you to a B if you're on our debate team. And I was like, debate team? I'm a wrestler. Please. They said, then I'll have to give you a D. And the only reason I did this, by the way, and I kind of misrepresented the facts to my parents, because I was underage and I could get away with lying. I told them, I said, hey, I was invited to compete on the debate team, so I got to get up early on Saturday mornings and go debate these things with other schools. My parents were like, oh, we're so proud of you. I was like, oh, yeah, because if that D showed up on my report card, pride would become vengeful attacks and evil. Your head would spin around, because the exorcist would come out. And so I was on the debate club. Okay? Did I prepare and study for the debate club? No. Okay? Because I was a wrestler. I didn't have time. It's during wrestling season. I was like, come on, people. I said, hey, teach. Come on, I'm the star wrestler here. I can't just... And I was not that arrogant ever about that, by the way. Just so you know. I said, I can't do this, And she says, well, even though you don't have time to prepare, here's what we're debating. Look it over, and then you're debating on the same side with this girl here. She's your partner. And I go, oh, God, you gave me a girl? I said, we're going to go to blows. I said, I've heard about debate club. These people piss you off, and you want to hurt somebody. And I said, I can't have her. Give me a big girl. Somebody that can hit, Because, you know what they say about women. This isn't true. This is just a joke and not really funny, but it's kind of funny. They said, a woman's right arm is as good as a man's left arm. And a woman's left arm is only good for carrying a purse. But a good woman can swing that purse. It's sexist, I know. Sorry. So I went into the debate club and I started reading this stuff, and we were arguing the Constitution. And we had the class, right? And I was like going, okay, fine, I'll do this stuff like this. And these people that go join these clubs want to become attorneys, most of them. You'd be surprised the number of people who are attorneys that were on a debate club. So I never wanted to be an attorney, because most Mexicans don't want to do that. I don't know what they want to do, but they don't want to do that. So I went in this class, I read through here, and God blessed me with a quick mind. I adapt quickly. So I went through there, and this girl, we had, it was point, counterpoint, closing argument is how they do this. And I was like, okay, fine. So I went up there and made my arguments. So I was like, yeah, okay, blah, 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 something like that. And then I lost. We lost the first one. And I was like, what? What do you mean lost? I said, look at those two people. They're ugly. How could they even have a chance to win? I said, that guy's got a lisp. Imagine listening to things that have a lot of F in it for like 15 minutes. I really couldn't do this anymore. I thought, hey, it's like listening to Daffy Duck. I was like going, and the judges said that they won. You know, they have a point system, and we lost. And the girl came up to me and she was upset. She goes, Fred, I can't believe we lost. I looked at her and go, hey, I'm totally amazed because I have no idea what their grading system is. I said, but if it's looks, they lose. If it's the ability to speak clearly and entertainingly, they lose. I said, I can't even believe this. So we had the next one come up. We had 3 or 4 debates that day. And I'd never done this in my life. And so we go up there and I said, if you don't know me, I will let you know this little thing about me. No matter how calm I seem on the exterior, I hate to lose with a passion. I hate to lose. I mean, when I went in to wrestle, I was a 2-time All-American. I was one of the only Americans that when we competed against Eastern Bloc countries that came over, 2 Americans that competed against Russia, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, all their champions, young champions. 2 Americans went undefeated. I was one of them, across 15 meets around the country. And I knew one thing is how to read my opponent. I mean, if they were stronger than me, and these guys are like grabbing trees, let go. You use other strategies to win, because these guys were strong. So that's what I did. I said, okay, I'll figure out what they're good at. I'll let them do that, and I'll beat them at their own game. So anyway, I hate to lose. I hate to lose. Does it happen? It happens. Yeah, sometimes it happens and I'm not happy about it. Okay, I'll smile, it's like that, and I'll go, how could you let me lose? I'm not that way. I just don't like it. So we lost that first debate, huh? Oh, yeah, she says I hold a grudge. Let's keep playing. Okay, because I know that there's never been a fight or a race that I really lost. They just didn't go on long enough. Because I know I could wear people down. I know sooner or later I was going to win. Yeah, whoo! I don't care if it's 4:30 in the morning. We've been playing for 12 hours. I will win 1 out of 100. And it will be the last one. It's the last one I win, I get up and go, I'm done. So anyway, we lost that debate, and I got to tell you, just like something in me, I was only 16, 17 years old, and I was like going, what the heck is going on? So I went and talked to the teacher, and the teacher looked, and she got excited about this. She goes, well, Fred, I watched the whole debate and everything. I says, yeah, well, what the heck happened? She says, well, these are the points you lost on. I was like, well, hey, if we're arguing points and that's how you win, why don't you tell me? God, I thought it was on other things. I didn't think this was serious. I didn't think somebody was actually going to lose. So we went into the next debate, and we beat that team. We went to the next debate. We won the next match. We won that one. So we took second. We only lost to the people that were first, which actually were the best ones there. And my teacher was so excited. She says, oh, Fred, you're so good at this. I said, nope. I got my B. I'm done. And she says, oh, Fred, you could be captain of the team. I was like, oh, please. And so I went to one more debate, and we won all 4, and got the team, our school team, into districts, and I didn't compete anymore in that. But it taught me something, because we talked about the Constitution. We talked about inalienable rights, which is a mispronunciation of the word, which is inalienable. How many people have heard inalienable? Yeah, they're inalienable rights. They're inalienable. I'm sophisticated. I use the word inalienable in various conversations. Inalienable, inalienable. And then as I started studying it, I thought, okay, let's go back to Latin. Inalienable. Which means these rights that we have can never be leaned. Which means if they become leaned, they become privileges. They can never become privileges. They are rights. God-given, God-granted. And you have to know, so where do we go back to? Huh?
But that's back to the opposite of a right.
That's, yeah, there you go. It's the opposite of a right, dichotomized. If it's alienable, then it is no longer a right. Now this is where it gets a little crazy here, because we go back here talking about King George. And a lot of people around the country involved in these different organizations, and I mean, you can be part of anything you want to be, but be careful. Be very careful. Because a lot of these people will derail you, run you down different roads and paths, and you'll spend a lifetime as the people who were the Israelites, the Hebrew people that walked around in the wilderness for 40 years because God would not let them enter the promised land because they didn't have faith until all these old school guys died off. He says, hey, you aren't going to believe me? I told you to go take the land. You're going to challenge me? Guess what? Walk around for 40 years until you all die off and only the new ones can go in there. You know, you got to understand what happened at that time. This is how dumb that whole thing was. They wore the same shoes for 40 years. The same underwear for 40. I can't imagine that. It must have been made out of hemp, you know. I'm telling you, because think about it. I don't have a pair of underwear I would even like for 40 years, let alone wear it for 40. I mean, mine wear out. They wear out, wear off. I mean, the bands start to break, and pretty soon, you know, it's like, I don't know what's holding them up, you know. But faith, I have underwear faith. You know, I try not to get there to that point. I'm just... You guys are laughing, trying to imagine in your mind what my underwear looks like. No, I have new, fresh ones. Anyway, but that's what he gave them. I mean, you got to understand what they had. It was right in front of them, and they wouldn't listen. He says, hey, you guys got everything. I told you to go take it. Why aren't you going to go take it? We're afraid. Those Canaanites are like really big. And we're like really scared. Okay, well, you do what you want. Because we have the right to do what we want. But you also have the right to be punished for what you do that's wrong. Okay? So the Constitution. So when you read the Constitution, which I did read several times, and I read the Bill of Rights. Okay, because here's the thing, is most people when they talk about the Constitution, they don't know it's called Article 1 of the Constitution. This is a nice little cheat sheet. There's Article 2, Article 3, Article 4, Article 5, 6, 7. They don't know about this. They don't know that the Bill of Rights are called Bill of Rights Article 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're called articles. It's not just called my rights. And I love the rights. Because these people here, if you took the brightest minds today, and not that I would, believe me, not even be close, but I'd like to participate with providing input to the brightest minds that would work on developing a new constitution. You know what? They could not do a better job than what was done 240 years ago. Could not. When you read it, you'll understand why. It is a riveting read. It's literary genius. It's colorful. The way they write paints a picture. As I'm writing out here, I'm painting a picture by my words. And I have to do everything to combine so you have an understanding of what's going on here. If you don't understand this, you're kind of, sorry, out of luck, SOL. It's the supreme law of the land. We needed to have a supreme law of the land as we have a supreme God. Reigns supreme. So we have the Constitution. So I studied this, read this, went through all that stuff with the debate club. And so in my heart, I knew I'd see injustices going on out there. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like it opened up a whole new panorama for me. I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. What does this mean here? Article 4 of the Bill of Rights. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. That's Article 4. And people read that and go, man, that's a run-on sentence. That's what my wife would say to me. Because she used to review my reports when I was a clinical psychologist. She goes, that's a run-on sentence. And there's often times I would start in the sentence, I'd go like this, I'd say, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, period. Yet, my client, she go, why do you put the yet there like that? I says, I like it. Yet. Okay. Article 4 of the Constitution. So I read these things and I studied them. I was like, well, wait a minute. Let me That means these people are doing things that are wrong. And my life goes by. And God put something in my heart about the Superman. I started saying, wait a minute, I saw injustices going on where I worked. I saw a boss or a coworker doing something to set somebody else up or do something that would cause them harm. And you know what? I started reading the Bible, because I wanted to get closer to my Lord. I wanted to understand what He put in my heart in His jurisdiction. I wanted to understand it because He said He wrote the truth on my heart. And all I had was a feeling of what was unjust. And so I wanted to read it so I could articulate it. Started reading it, and I was like going, oh my gosh. Well, you know what? Whew. I think I walked around like, whew, like that for several years. I was like, every time I'd read it and I'd study it, because I'd grab a dictionary, not any dictionary. I'd grab a dictionary that was at least 50 to 100 years old. And I'd look at the words, and I'd look at the Latin, look at some of the Greek, and I'd go, this doesn't mean what they're saying. This is why I had falling out with churches. I go, wait a minute, this doesn't mean what you're saying. I said, there's something wrong here. By the way, what kind of church are you? Oh, 501c3? Never mind. No more questions. I'll go over that in a minute. So I started reading all this stuff, and I started realizing, exactly who I started realizing, who and what I was, and I started to stand up and fight. Without even knowing it, I just based it on a feeling in my heart. Because like I said, when you go to bed at night, something starts to happen to you. You get this thing called conscience. And you know what? If somebody's tried to make me do something wrong, I couldn't do it. I remember working for one of the counseling firms I worked for. They came up with this new contract. They said, we want everybody to sign this, Fred, and since you're the assistant director down there, we want you to make sure everybody signs this. Well, I built the office. When I got there was one person. Now there were 7 people. It was because of me. Not that I'm great, but I believe if I do anything, I'm going to be the best at it. So I will put in my best. Okay? I will bring honor to my father. That meant something to me. I wanted, all kids, this is funny, all kids want to be applauded by their parents. They want the approval of their parents. That's why you cannot be and you cannot have screwed up parents. If you have screwed up parents, you can't fix that. You can love them and pray for them, but you have no obligation to do what they say. Honor thy mother and thy father. The only way you can honor your mother and father is to honor God. The only way, just to help fix some things up. Because I had a crazy mom. She's still crazy. My dad, unfortunately, took his life. That was hard. You have lessons in life that bring you to your knees, just so you can get closer to somebody else and they'll use you for something bigger. I'll tell you about that story because it's good to know, because you see things in your life. You need to have an awareness. So what ended up happening was, what was I talking about? Anybody taking notes? Or you guys just listening? What? Honor. There we go. Honor your mother and father. You don't get caught up in that. Oh, you're not honoring me. I cannot honor you if you're screwed up. I can only honor God just to fix you up. My kids, I've taught my kids, I says, the only way you can honor me is if you honor God. And let's hope I bring Him honor. Therefore, we're all in alignment and doing the same and the right thing. Does that help a little bit? I agonize over this stuff, like you cannot believe. It gives me a headache just to think about how much learning I've had to do. And I'll tell you what, just to give you guys, this is a little side note here. I said if there's only 2 things that God would ever allow me to do and be good at, one is to continue learning and pursuing the truth. And number 2 would be an example of that truth for my family and my fellow man. Is that simple enough? The 2 things I want. You know what the hardest things in the world are to do? To stay in a mental frame of mind to continue to learn the things that are good and true. And number 2, to be an example of that learned truth. Those are the toughest things in the world to do. And I didn't know that when I picked it. Oh, God, it's like really hard. I was like, oh my gosh. So that's how you bring honor. You bring honor by your actions and your thoughts and your deeds. It's not that hard, but it is hard. You know what's hard to do is have courage. You know these people that wrote this Constitution? You know how much courage that took when someone could have just come up to you at any point in time and said, I'm going to lock you away. In the Declaration of Independence, it says, to these ends we pledge our lives, our families, and our fortunes. And when you read a book, there's a book you can get a talk that refers to the 52 people that signed the Declaration of Independence. What happened to them? You would freak. How they were pursued by the English army even after we won. Did they lose their families? Did they lose their fortunes? Did they lose their lives? Yes. And I'll tell you what, most people, you know what gets me worse than anything? Is a coward. A coward. What's the key word with coward? Fear, opposite of love. I mean, I've actually told this to people. I said, there is going to be an uprising. There is going to be a war. And the first one I'm going to shoot is you. They said, why? I said, because you're a coward. A coward will do anything to save their soul, their skin, because they have no honor. Honor supersedes everything, because the desire for honor makes you stand, and you realize if you have faith in God, thank goodness this isn't it. Even though they call this paradise, thank goodness this isn't it, because it means there's something better. And I say amen. So we got the Constitution now. They framed the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. Now, from there's some things that happened. These colonies were created, the states were created. Every single constitution of every single state in these United States state in there somewhere in Article 1 or Article 2 of their Constitution that the supreme law of the land is the United States Constitution. Okay? The supreme law of the land. So let's talk about what your rights are a little bit. I get very excited about this. How are we doing? Are we doing okay? Okay. You guys glad I showed up maybe? No? Tell I have a passion for this stuff. You guys have no idea how happy I am to be here with you guys. You have no idea. And so if I bore you, forgive me. Okay? Huh? The book title? I don't remember the name, but it's you can do a search on Google for the 50 signers of the Declaration of Independence and type in book, and it'll pull it up. And I'll tell you what, if it doesn't make you cry, there's something wrong with you. Each one of these people said, double or a little more than double what we have right here. To this end, we pledge our lives, our families, and our fortunes to be independent of the tyranny of that guy. Now, how many people feel tyranny today? Do you feel tyranny today? Now, let me tell you what you got here. Let me tell you what you got through this Constitution. I get excited about this. I have the right to freely travel by the means common of the man of the day, without encumbrance from any agent, agency, entity, officer, or party. No license, no registration, no proof of insurance. 240 years ago, can you imagine me on my horse? And some guy with 2 lamps on his horse with a cart in the back with bars around it, pulling up to me, he has a crow on there, and he pinches the crow because it's tied down his head and goes, ah! Ah! Pull over, buddy. I'm like, whatever. You're evading the police. I'm like, yeah, well, guess what? Okay? Can you imagine that? You have the right to freely travel. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If I want to walk from here to over there, is that an inalienable right? Or do I need permission? God gave me the ability, therefore I can. And since you're an island, I like this because this is going to make this easier for you to understand. If God took you individually and boom, planted you on an island, He gave you all your unalienable rights, what could you do? And what could you not do? You could do anything. Could you not? Anything you could possibly do, you can do. Woo! You want to climb to the mountaintop, scream. You want to run down the mountain without your clothes on. Woohoo! Don't slip and fall. You have that right to freely travel because He gave you the ability to do it. Therefore, it's inalienable. If you have the ability to do it, guess what? It cannot be leaned. The right to free speech, free thought, are those inalienable? Okay? So when you're on an island, you can do anything you want. Now, what happens when God puts another person on that island with you? Yo, Yanomamo, what's up? Hey, guess what? Well, my rights do not allow me to infringe on your rights. I can do whatever I want until it damages you in some way, shape, or form. So we have to do is we have to have some definitions in here that allow us to protect one another. So if we've got the rights, so what are the rights that we have here? And I've got this written up here. I'll just write it right here. Life, liberty, and the pursuit, the POH, the pursuit of happiness. Now, how many people here have ever in your life felt hunger? Oh, come on. Everybody better raise their hand or you're lying. Like right now? Okay. Man, somebody give her a cookie. No. I'll tell you what. If you've ever felt hunger, do you have the right to satisfy that hunger? Yes. Okay, then you satisfy that hunger. You have that right. Okay? That's the pursuit of happiness. But what happens if you eat something that's not your favorite tasting thing? How do you like this one? Eat it, it's good for you, Monica. You heard that a million times. My daddy told me that. Yes, Dad. Yeah, you eat it because it's good for you. Why is things good for you have to taste bad? But that's why the pursuit of happiness doesn't guarantee that what you eat will make you happy. It will not properly satisfy you in the way you want, which means your taste buds and everything else like that, and your whole desire for natural health. But you have the right to pursue that happiness, which means you have the right to secure the satisfaction of your hunger. Isn't that awesome? You have that inalienable right. Now, what somebody says this is that you can't eat unless you do this, 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 and this. Do you have that right? No, somebody took that right away and made it lienable, not alienable, which means it now becomes a privilege. It's happened in tons of countries. It's happened all through history. We don't understand what this Constitution did for us. We have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So I'm going to back up a little bit. We have the right to life. This is huge. This is huge. You have the right to life. You know what that means? I have the right to do what's ever necessary to protect the safety in my person. Where is this? It's in the Constitution. I'll go over that later. It says it in the Constitution. We have the right to be safe in our person. You know what that means? I have the right to defend my life. If you have the right to have one, you have the right to defend it. Now, pay attention to what I'm going to say here because it's getting a little tricky. I have the obligation to protect your life. I have the right to defend mine, but I have the obligation to protect yours. And this is where it's going to get really fun and good, because I'm hoping I'm opening up your brains a little bit. How many people heard the story of Cain and Abel? Everybody knows that story, right? Liana, you know it? I know you're hiding behind that camera there, but I'm just checking it out, man. I brought my library card so I can check it out. Okay, Cain and Abel. Cain killed his brother Abel, right? Because why? Was he moral? Was Cain moral? No, if you actually know some of the other Bible stories and so on that they don't let you know, Cain, they were born in pairs. Cain was born with a sister. Abel was born with a sister. They're born in pairs. Because remember, there's just Adam and Eve, right? And to help any confusion, he didn't say Adam and Steve. He said Adam and Eve. Okay? They had pairs of children, so the pairs would cross. The twins, the male would marry the female, and the other one, like so on like that, right? And they had 30 kids, is what I read. They had 15 pairs of twins. It's plausible. And Cain was married to Abel's sister, but he liked his sister more. And he wanted both. He didn't just want one. So there are other things going on, because they go, hey, why did he kill Abel anyway? Was it because, like, this? They don't tell you the whole story. I mean, if you don't believe me, let me tell you something. I'm going to open your eyes a little bit. In 1885, I believe it was, 1885, the Archbishop of Canterbury, a 32nd degree Freemason, decreed that over 600 and some books would be removed from the Bible, the King James Version of the Bible, and they would reduce this down to 66. So what is it that you're not reading? And when you start reading the Apocrypha and some of these other books, I mean, why was it good for 200 and some years, 300 years? Everybody says, oh, King James, he had all these scholars that did this, that, and the other thing. Get a copy of the Geneva Bible that preceded it by 50 years, put the King James next to the Geneva, and look at them. They're almost identical, verbatim. King James had a different plan, but I won't go into that right now. They wanted to control the thinking of man and do it through religion. And there's a lot of things you guys don't know, but when you do the study, you're going to get scared. You have no idea how bad it is out there. But we'll win. We already got the victory guaranteed. So anyway, continuing on. I was talking about what? Cain and Abel. So what did God say to Cain after he killed Abel? He says, I hear his blood calling to me from the ground. Where is thy brother Abel? And what did Cain say? Am I my brother's keeper? Can you imagine how indignant he was talking to God? He probably did just exactly like that too. He's like, what? What, am I my brother's keeper?
Yes.
And God in so much as told him, yes. So, I have the obligation to defend your life, protect your life. I have the right to protect mine, but I have the obligation to protect yours. I am my brother's keeper. So this is where God created obligation versus right. Which means if I stood there and watched Cain kill Abel and did nothing when I could have, what am I? I'm an accessory. I'm an accomplice to the murder. God says in Proverbs, when it is within your power to do good and you do not, it is blood on your hands. So you have the obligation to do right. You have the obligation to protect somebody else's life. You have the obligation to protect their rights. I'm telling you, when I see the police pull somebody over, I'm telling you what, my blood boils. You know why? The police are not in here. I have the right of freedom of speech, which means if I come up to you and start asking you questions and demand that you respond, is that violating your right to free speech? Otherwise, I'm going to throw you in jail? Yes, because that's an inalienable right. I don't have to answer any of your questions. It's inalienable. Article 4, you have the right to be private in your person and your things. Give me your driver's license, your proof of insurance, and your registration. I have the right to be private in my person, my things, my effects, and my home from unlawful search or seizure. Am I violating your right? Yes. On and on and on. Go to Article 7. They can't take anything from you with due process. Article 5. I want you to answer these questions. What were you doing? Where were you going? Where were you driving to? Is that a violation of your right, that you do not have the right to testify against yourself?
That's right.
Okay, and Article 9, Article 10. I get so mad about this. Imagine how it is when they pull me over. I'm sorry, officer. Forgive me, please. You know, I started looking at this stuff and I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? How did this all get crazy? Because we have all this. Think about what you can do right up here with what was given to you by the Constitution. I have the right to contract, unlimited right to contract. You know how powerful that is? Paul, you and I did the story with chickens and goats, man. Paul has goats, I have chickens. And we're in the islands, everybody knows all this. Okay, when we lived over on Big Island, we had chickens. You couldn't eat the chickens because my girls named them all. You cannot eat anything. It's a maxim of law that has a name. You can't eat something that has a name, can you? And they're cute names like Itsy and Bitsy. We're going to eat cutie pie. Ha ha ha! Dad, would you eat me? Is that rhetorical or do I? So anyway, so we did the story with goats and chickens. And this goes into the right to contract, because you got to know that there are five basic elements of contract that you have to keep in mind in order for a contract to be valid, because you guys have been deceived. See, most of you guys don't even know this stuff. I hope it's making a little more sense to you today. Okay? I hope it's making more sense to you. If you're going to have a contract with somebody, here's what we're going to need. Paul and I are contracting. Paul has goats, I have chickens. Okay? First thing is this, we have to be in-kind parties. God said He created what? Everything after its own kind. You can only get involved with a contract with somebody that's in kind. I cannot create a contract with a giraffe. Why? We're not in kind, therefore it's an invalid contract. Okay? I mean, it's going to get better. Trust me, it's going to get better. Yeah, it's funny now, but wait till you see what happened to you. So Paul and I were talking. I says, Paul, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you, we're going to contract, I'm going to trade you 25 chickens for 10 goats. That's the first thing. We're in-kind parties, and we start discussing the terms of the contract. One of those terms has to be full disclosure. Okay? Now, what do you think would happen if Paul says, okay, Fred, here's your goats, here's your 10 goats, and they're all dead? Would I be upset? I'd be darn upset, because I, in my mind, had an understanding. So that's why we have to have full disclosure. I want to know where you're getting your goats from. I want to know what stock they're from. I want to know how they've been fed. So I lay the conditions on my side of the full disclosure on his part. Okay, but because we're moral, right? We're moral. We're going to protect each other's rights, and we're going to do the right thing. So Paul's going to say, you're going to get the best of my stock. This is how they're raised. This is what they're fed. Blah, 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 blah. Give me the full genealogy, everything back, so on like that. Give me everything. I said, well, okay, Paul, I'm going to do the same thing with my chickens. Okay, but here's the deal. I only want 5 of those goats now, and I'll give you 12 of the chickens now. And this is what their laying history is, so on and so on like that. So we have full disclosure. And the balance we'll do in spring, because that's when I'm really going to need them. So there's the full disclosure, right? So we have an understanding now. Hear that word? Understanding. What does that mean? We have an agreement. So we agree on something. We've come to an accord. We've come to an agreement. We understand. Okay? So we understand. And that's the second part, is full disclosure. Now, because we're going to have a written contract, guess what we're going to do? Contracts can be satisfied in terms of, what's the word I'm looking for? What is it when you, no. It's a C word. It starts with C. Consummate. Yes, it's a marriage word. Okay. Okay, we're going to consummate our contract by wet ink signatures on my side and his side. Now, what if only he signs it and I don't? Do we have an agreement? Do we have an understanding? No, we do not. So number 3 is this. There has to be, actually move it to number 4. Number 3 has to be this, equal consideration on each side. We both have to put something up of equal value in order to make that contract valid. We're talking about valid contracts here. So what do we have first? In-kind parties. What do we have second? Full disclosure. What do we have third? Equal consideration. 4, wedding signatures on both sides. Number 5, it cannot be an unconscionable contract. It cannot be a contract that violates the law. Okay? You hear how much I'm using the term law? Law, law, law. Okay? That's what makes a valid contract. We have the right to unlimited contract. We can contract with anybody for anything so long as those 5 conditions are met. Now here's what happens. Now we get into a little trouble here. We have to define something else here, and that's called a crime. Right? A crime. We can apply it to contracts. We can apply it to anything. So what ended up having to happen is when the framers of the Constitution put this all together, what they said was we actually have to define everything that is in this document. Every single word has a definition so that you and I are speaking the same language, that we're speaking, that you're speaking with me and her, and we're all speaking the same language. We have that. Every single one of the words in here have a definition. How do you like that? So they had to define the word crime. So you know what? People commit crimes. How many people know that other people commit crimes? Raise your hands. Come on. Unless you're writing. And then raise your other hand. Raise your friend's hand. So they had to define crime. So they said, well, what are we going to do to define a crime? Well, we have to keep all this stuff here in mind. God's word, His jurisdiction, and what is a crime. Remember on the island? When there's only you and another person? A crime is when one of the people with criminal intent damages or harms one of the people and or their property. That is a crime. Does that sound reasonable? Do you like that definition? Yes? Okay. Then, if I run a stoplight, is that a crime?
No.
Okay, why is it not a crime? There's no contract, but a crime by definition is when one of the people with criminal intent damages one of the people and or their property. Did you commit a crime? Do you have the right to freely travel? Is that what you were doing? Without encumbrance from any agent, agency, entity, officer, or party, statute, or code. You have the right to freely travel, so long as you don't damage one of the people. So that's the definition of a crime. Now, above this line here, I mean, what if I was walking over here and I went, whoop, 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 ah, and I smashed your computer? I got liability. Did I commit a crime? No, but was there damage? Am I responsible for that damage? If I'm moral, yes, I do. If I'm immoral, shoot me. Okay? But yes, because we have a moral society above here, this is important. The way it's supposed to be, you're going to see where it all fell down here is when people stop being moral. Guess what? I damaged your computer. I'm going to get you the same exact kind of computer or better. Isn't that nice? Now, what if I walked over here and went, I committed a crime because I did it with criminal intent. I did that with the intention of damaging her computer. Now, who's going to decide it? Is she going to decide that? No. Why not? Because she can't be trusted to decide that. I'm entitled, under Article 6, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy trial and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed. I have the right to a trial by a jury of my peers. And they'll decide whether or not I did it with criminal intent. And why does it have to be a jury of my peers? Because if culturally the people on the jury do not know me or understand me, they cannot make that evaluation. And there has to be 12 of them, like the apostles. If one of them dissents, can they come up with a conviction? No, it has to be unanimous. These things are all in place to protect the rights of the people because they know how important that is. Before one person can make an accusation, they wouldn't even let you know who it is. Let me see here. Is this in Article 7 or Article 6? Yeah, Article 6. Under the Bill of Rights. And you have the right to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against you, and to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in your favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for your defense. You have the right to choose it or not choose it. Okay? So you know what that means? If I have a disadvantage because of my language, I can have counsel. Did it say an attorney? Did it say an attorney in the Bill of Rights? No, it did not. He says you have the right to counsel, which means if somebody knows the matter better than you do, they have ability to articulate better than you do, you have the right to them as counsel. Right up here. Bang. So what do they have to do? If they created a crime, they had to create a court system to hear the matters, right? And so according to Article 3 of the Constitution, we have a judicial court system. I know it's getting tough to read. Okay, Article 3 of the Constitution, and it says exactly what kind of court that is. I'm not going to read that because it's kind of long. But it says exactly what the court of that is, the court of the people is. This is the only court system, the court arena that can hear the voice of the people. There's courts that are prepared and conducted under Article 1 and those under Article 3. The ones that affect the people are Article 3. So we have an Article 3 judicial system that implements everything that's put in Article 6. Okay? You guys like that so far? So guess what? You know what a peer means? A peer. Okay, you know what that means? Is that, guess what? If I'm accused of a crime, I am what? Until proven what? Innocent. I am innocent and maintain and have all my rights secured until I am proven in a court of law that what I did was with criminal intent to damage one of the people, therefore a crime. I have that right, inalienable. Okay? So no one can just say, you're guilty of that, you did that. I saw you speeding. Well, I saw you being a jerk. What's the difference? I'll tell you stories in a little bit, what I've done. You're going to go, oh. Bucktooth Bob standing out there going, go ahead, Fred, tell them all. He likes to eat corn cob through a picket fence. He's like, okay, think about it. Your mind will work on that one. Some of you at 2 a.m. in the morning, you go, oh, that was funny. Okay, so I have these rights, right? I have the right. So the reason I want a jury of my peers is how would you like this? Is how would you like it if you were accused of a crime and everybody on the jury was somebody from England? Hell no. Hell no. You know why?
Yeah, that's not my people.
It's not your people. They don't know your culture. They don't know maybe that on a specific time of the year or a full moon or something like that, everybody does something crazy to somebody else, and it's all a joke. You know? What was the joke? Well, on this day, whoever has the nicest hairdo, we hit him in the head with a water balloon. You know, it's just once a year. You know, we pick the people, get their hairdos done up, and we get to pick the people get to throw the water balloons. Somebody says, well, you messed up my hairdo, you did damage to me, you owe me money. Culture, you understand why that is so important to have the cultural aspect involved with the juries. And all 12 of them have to agree. If one of them dissents, there is no choice but to discharge the matter because there is no crime. Yes?
That can work even for gender. So a woman could
There you go.
12 women.
There you go. Now, trial by jury is different than what you hear, which is jury trial. Understand, remember this. They do it with words. They do it with how they phrase things. It all means something different. Yes means no, no means yes. Understand doesn't mean what you think it means. And I'll tell you about the court cases where we had one, and I says, Liam, let me tell you what happened. This is an interesting story. Liam wouldn't mind if I told this. You know him. Where's Craig? Where'd Craig go?
Craig's running errands for me.
Okay, cool. So Craig was there, and who else was there? Milton, you were there, right? And who else? Oh, Tammy, was she there?
She was there.
Okay, and Joanne was there. And here's what happened. So Liam is sitting in his car after a meeting at one of the hotels in Vegas, sitting there in his car, taking some notes, putting his pad down, working on his phone, and a lady approaches his car in the parking lot. And she says, hey, how are you? He says, oh, I'm good. How are you? She says, hey, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm just finishing up stuff from a meeting I had, and I'm going to be leaving here shortly. She says, oh, well, hey, I just wonder if you could help me out. He goes, well, what do you need? She says, I lost my house. I'm in foreclosure. And so like, and he goes, hey, you know what? Did you leave your house yet? She says, oh, yes, I did, blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you the lunchtime special for $40 if you come over to this hotel with me. He goes, what? He says, lady, you don't need to do this. He says, I know some people that can help you with your foreclosure situation. You don't need to do this stuff. She says, oh, come on. He says, I got to go anyway. She says, well, can you come back? He says, look, I'll tell you what. Give me your phone number and I'm going to have somebody call you. At that exact second, 2 plainclothes policemen rushed over, surrounded his car, yanked him out of his car, handcuffed, drove him to an alley, put him in a van, drove him to the jail, and incarcerated him. It's in her police report. I have the file right here. I have the police report. She's talking about he was discussing foreclosure options with her. He was arrested, had to post $1,200 bail. Okay? And then we have to go to court. And there's a statute that says if the crime, okay, I want to read this to you. I got to read this to you first. Okay. In the state of Nevada, it says this, that the right to a trial by jury shall remain inviolate forever. If somebody is accused of a crime, your right to a trial by a jury of your peers is inviolate forever. Got that? What does that mean? What is he entitled to? He's entitled to a trial by a jury of his peers. He's from Ireland. He loves his Lucky Charms. He's a wonderful man. And so anyway, so he does that, and I get a phone call the next morning. I think he called for like 1 or 2 days before I picked up the phone, because I get so many calls. You talk to his wife. She's a lucky charmer too. So anyway, it says in the Constitution that the supreme law of the land is the United States Constitution, and it mirrors what says here in Article 6, that he has the right to a trial by a jury, and that right is inviolate forever. It can never be violated forever. And yet the Nevada Supreme Court created a statute and said, well, if they're going to be thrown in jail or prison for less than 6 months, then it's okay. They don't have to have a trial by a jury.
That's unconstitutional.
There you go. And I'll get into that in a minute. So we go to court, we file all these papers and everything like that, and I go with him, and he's a mess. If you've ever been to court, you're like, and they call your name. Fred Gutierrez, are you present? I'm over here, Your Honor. No hablo inglés. Get that man an interpreter. You don't look Mexican. Yeah, everybody tells me that. Ooh. So anyway, we've gone to court to duke this stuff out with him, and we start with his constitutional rights. And so the first thing we file in the court is a motion to demand a trial by jury. Now this is where it's going to get fun, and then we're going to take a break for like 10, 15 minutes. Is that okay? 15 minutes? 15 minutes? Pero yo no tengo un reloj. I don't have a watch.
I got your back.
You got my back. Okay. It's the supreme law of the land. So what ends up happening, the judge says, oh, well, there's this statute that says that the Supreme Court of Nevada has said that if you're only going to go to jail or prison for 6 months, you don't need a jury trial, a trial by jury. What was your thinking beyond that? Is that law?
No.
What does the law say? It said it's inviolate forever. It says when life, liberty, and property are at stake, the individual has the right to a trial by jury and due process of law. Okay? Huh? Speeding too. Here's the thing. Speedy trial. Yeah, exactly. Speedy trial. Which means they can't lock you in there for 5, 10, 15, 20 years and say, oh, we forgot about you. Do they do that? Yes, they do. That's a violation. Now, the thing is this. You see this stuff happen. Understand how it's supposed to be set up. What happened? What the heck happened? Okay, this is going to get really good. I'm telling you, you guys are going to have so much fun when I get to the next part. You're going to go, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, oh. Okay, I like Bruce Lee when he punches people out. He's like, oh, oh. It's like he's got to stay there for a little while. If I move, everything can just pop off, man. So when we get to the next part here, you guys are going to have fun. So you know how it's supposed to be. Okay? How it's supposed to be. Now we've been battling and so on like this since we filed continuances, did all these other things. I love this because we're going to get into boom, to the moon. Okay? The supreme law of the land. I love this. So what happened? You guys like what this provides?
Oh, yes.
Well, something happened. Something happened. Because if you have these rights, why are they being taken away from you? Can they be taken away without your permission? Because we have the unlimited right to contract, right? So guess what? If I'm a weasel, a snake, a fox, a liar, cheater, thief, or criminal, and I can get you to waive one of your rights, I can do whatever I want. So that's why he says, go amongst them like wolves, but be peaceful as a dove. Because he knows what's out there. What happened? What happened to destroy our pretty little piece of paradise here? Because I've developed it the way God said it was supposed to be, right? We've had godly people that prepared all this stuff, put it all in place. We could not do a better job. It's all there. So what happened? What are we? We're private, right? Well, here's what it says in the Constitution. In the Constitution, in order for it to function and to have all this protected, we need to create something called the public. The public. Who are the public? What am they be? What be they? You guys are too funny. Okay. Anybody here know a police officer? Been stopped by one? Many a time. Yes, I usually go out Monday, Thursday, Friday. That's my days to get stopped. They have a special statute in LA on Friday night that it's illegal to be Mexican. That night I go out, but I come home early. Okay. If you read this here, in the public, they have titles. Okay? And the titles are created to allow somebody from the private to step in and fill the title to function in the public to serve the private. Isn't that nice? We created the republic, res publicus, that thing which was created by the people to serve. Isn't that nice? We created, and you know what? If you've known a police officer, can you be born a police officer? Can you be born a judge? Can you be born a business owner? Can you be born a chemist, a scientist, a psychologist, a wrestler? You can't be born anything other than what you are, which is a flesh and blood man or woman. So somebody from up here has to step into the title of this position, and they are given what's called a delegation of limited authority. You guys, it's going to get good because I'm going to break here in just about 5 minutes. And you need to write that down, a delegation of limited authority. What does that mean? We collectively have agreed, our delegation has agreed, that the people that function in this capacity with these titles have limited authority. Okay, now how do we stop them? How do we control them? Because isn't it possible, let's put some titles down here. Senators, congressmen, military, judges, attorneys, public school teachers, law enforcement, all state workers, all county workers, all municipal workers, all federal workers, TSA, Secret Service, IRS, United States Marshals, all government appointees, all these people that are elected, quote unquote, officials, they are part of the public. Am I right? Is that which is created, can it become more powerful than that which created it? No. It is a maxim of law. Can you be born in any one of these things here you see on the left? You cannot. That means you are what? A living person stepping in to function in a fictional capacity to serve who? The private. Is there such thing as a public servant? No. Deceit. There it is. There is no such thing as a public servant. Well, you're right. In that sense, you're right. There is no such thing as a public servant. The people serving the public serve to protect the rights of the private. Well, we'll get them. We're going to get them. Okay, now all these people here, guess what? In order to function in this capacity here, guess what they all have to have? Two things, and we're going to break. Number one, according to Article 4 of the Bill of Rights, okay, Bill of Rights, they have to have an oath of office. They have to have an oath of office. Okay? Depending upon what you serve in what capacity, if you work for the federal government in any capacity, you take the oath according to United States Code, Title 5, Chapter 33, subsection 3331. I think I have that in my bag. I tried to give it away to the people at TSA. They would not take it. She served in the Chinese military. She did not want to take it. Oh, I think I ended up, here it is. I take these two things with me when I fly. Excuse me. You're going to love how I travel. I wear sweats, gym shorts, and a very small, tight shirt. Okay? And I come up there, and this is a true story, okay? I'll tell you a story, finish this, and we'll go to lunch, okay? Because I like stories. It's like this stuff always happens to me. It's like, why? Because I'm a good storyteller, but the stuff really happens. You know, we talk story. Okay? And according to United States Code Title 5, Chapter 33, subsection 3331, an individual except the president, elected or appointed to an office of honor or profit in the civil service or uniformed services, shall take the following oath. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I'm about to enter. So help me God. What do they swear an oath to do? uphold, to stand, uphold the Constitution. Uphold, They will not let it come down. They will hold it in place as God has affixed the stars in the heavens. They took an oath. If you take an oath, what does that mean if you break that oath? Is there penalties? Oh, yes, there is. Title 18, United States Code. They committed crimes. You violate that oath, you take this oath in the public to get the private trust. You take this oath so we can trust you to function in this capacity, and you aren't going to try and overthrow what we've created to protect us. Now, are they doing that? Are they breaking their oath? Okay, it says in the crimes, that's felony perjury, treason, and sedition. In the back part of Title 18, it gives the penalties for the crimes. You, Mr. Officer, you're impeding my ability to travel. You're violating my rights. Article 1 of my Bill of Rights, Article 4, Article 5, Article 7, and Article 9. You, sir, have perjured your oath. I'm going to have you locked up. I will call the sheriff or the U.S. Marshals. And I'll tell you a story here. Okay, are we good so far? You guys like this? Oh, but they're trampling on our rights on the Constitution. I saw it on the news. The Constitution doesn't really exist. You say that again, I'm going to stick you in the toilet, hit the handle, and let you go. I'll just watch you swirl around and disappear. Like that you are. Okay, people say that. Does it look like it's gone? Nina and I had a seminar we had to go do in Reno, Nevada. Last year, I had my birthday yesterday, by the way. Okay? And yeah, you made it. Oh my goodness, we were worried. Okay? I had my birthday yesterday, and a year ago, my driver's license expired. Now, did I let it expire? Yes, I let it expire. You know why? Because I started reading all this stuff last year, and I started thinking, you know, God, I just think nothing. God called me, and he says, Fred, I got stuff for you to do, but I know how you work, so I know how to get you to where I want you to be. So I was watching this show, Cops, on TV. You guys seen it? I hate that show. I hate that show, I hate that show, I hate that show. I said, let him try that on me. Because what would happen? I said, let him try that on me. I mean, I was so mad after 3 minutes, I said, I can't stand this. I didn't know why. But I went on YouTube and typed in, cops getting beat up. Right? Vigilante judge. I was like, yeah, here they are. They're getting beat up. They're running like little sissies. Ah, don't let them get me. The cops are running. Yeah, we got a shooting over on 4 blocks away from here. Donut store just opened. We'll be there in 25. There's a shooting. Somebody's got a gun. I ain't going. I ain't risking my life. Watch these cops getting beat up, and I go, yeah. And then I came across something, UCC1, and I was like, what? What's that doing on the cop beat up network? So I started learning all this stuff, and I started going, oh, and you know, guess what? Within a matter of a couple months, I started doing seminars around the country, teaching people about this stuff. And it's kept growing. My understanding kept growing because God was like, you know, my head's only this big. But God created this thing that was like this big and just started putting stuff. I was like going, ow. God, it like really hurts, God. They're like, there's only so many brain cells in here, right? And you're really cramming them full. Like, could you stop? Like for a little while? And I started learning about this stuff. And I'll tell you what, we have an amazing team. We studied the UCC1. We went through the UCC, the United States Code, the Code of Federal Regulations, the Banking Law, and the Banking Act. Started learning all this stuff, and I was like going, oh my gosh. And I sat there, and one day, because we have a round table, we had 5 to 6 computers going on, plus 2 attorneys we were talking to about all this stuff. And all of a sudden, I was sitting there, and this picture you see before you here appeared. It was like a 3-dimensional hologram in front of me, and I went, oh my gosh, I got it. I got it, I got it, I got it. I says, we can win. So it's about time to eat, so I'll hurry up on the story here. Huh? So anyway, so here's what happened. We're going down into, now the way this road works, we're driving from Vegas to Reno to do this seminar. And it's like the road's going like this into Nevada, California, Nevada, California, Nevada, California. I had no idea what state I was in. We were driving down there, and just so you know, I don't speed. I don't need to. But it's dark. I've never been this place before. And all of a sudden, I go through this little town. I see it go 55, 45, 35, 25, through the little town, 25, 35, 45, 55. And I was like, cool. I'm good. They always have speed traps here in these little towns. So I mind my speed. I go through this little town. And I'm coming out, and it's dark. It's dark. You cannot see. There's no street lights in the mountains, right? And in the mountains, what are there? There's usually like, you're taking a turn, and on this side, there's nothing. This side, you can see the mountain. But over here, you don't know how far you're going to fall. So I drive safe. Going through there, and all of a sudden, this guy comes behind me, and I see these lights going on. Ooh, I said, he's trying to get by. So I move over and go on by, go on by. He's not going by. I was like, well, what the flip? I was like, okay, you're not going by. Then he hits me the sirens, right? Hits his crow. Roar! I was like, oh. All righty then. I don't have a driver's license. Guy comes up to my car. He says, excuse me. I go, yes. How are you this evening? He goes, you were speeding back there. I said, not likely, sir. I said, I don't speed. He says, well, I clocked you at 65. Do you know what the speed limit was back there? I said, well, it was 25, then it went 35, then 45, then 55, and I haven't seen anything since. So I'm assuming it's 55. I was going under 55 because we're in mountainous terrain doing this kind of thing. He goes, well, I'm not going to argue it with you. And of course, I look at him, and she parrots what I said at the same time. We go, good. And he was like, there's two of you. He goes, sir, I need your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. I said, you know what I need? I need your oath of office. I need your badge number. I need your sergeant on duty's name and your bond number right now. He looked at me and goes, what? I said, you heard me? I said, I need your oath of office right now. This second, I need your oath of office. He looked at me and goes, hold on a second. Goes back to his car. 3 minutes later, he comes back. He goes, Mr. Gutierrez, can I have your driver's license? I said, sure. It's expired because I no longer contract with the state to function as a driver. I'm freely traveling these United States by the means common of the man of the day, as my right is guaranteed by the Constitution. But here you go, since you asked. And I said, by the way, I demand your oath of office. Goes away, comes back. Excuse me, Mr. Gutierrez, but this driver's license is expired. I said, yes, it is, because I no longer function as a driver, and I'm freely traveling through these United States as guaranteed by the Constitution. My right to freely travel without any encumbrance from the agent, agency, entity, officer, or party, statute, or code. And, sir, I've already demanded your oath of office, and this is my fifth request. Sir, could you hold on a minute? Sure. He leaves and he comes back. And he comes back, and this time, is this your wife? And I go, why? He goes, well, does she have a license? She goes, no. I'm like, why don't you just be quiet and let me take care of this, man? You know? And she's going, well, no, but I can give you the number. And I'm like, so she gives him the number, right? Now imagine if the police would allow this ever to happen. He goes back, calls it in, comes back, and she says, Mrs. Gutierrez, and he says, is this your name, Loretta Gutierrez? She goes, yes. She said, would you mind, it's only 9 miles to the Nevada border. Mr. Gutierrez, would you mind if she just drove to the border and then you can do whatever you want to do? And, let's just call it a night. Sure. She didn't have her license on her. And he wants her to drive, and mine's expired. What's the difference? Right? He had no proof. She could have been lying to him. I would have turned her in. I'm just kidding. So I said, no problem. So I get out of the car, and this guy's shaking. And I already got his name right. I said, does that C stand for Chris or Charles? Well, Chris. I get out of the car, and I walk back to him. I says, Chris, by the way, you did not give me your oath of office. He goes, Mr. Gutierrez, to be honest with you, I don't even remember what that is. He says, but you have a good night. And I says, hey, Chris, hold on a second. He goes, what? I said, do you work tomorrow night? He goes, yeah. I said, I'm going to be coming through here again tomorrow night. If you see me, you have a good night. Walked in my car, and we took off. This is powerful. I solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution and to protect it from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, each state has a version of that, and it's in the Constitution. It says what it is that they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to phrase it. And everybody who takes an oath of office, and then we're done for lunch, everybody who takes that oath of office, it has to be filed in a public place for public perusal to verify and validate that they have an on-copy filed oath of office that demonstrates that they have our authority to function in the public to serve the private. And if they do not have that, kiss my chicken's grits. I will have you arrested. Okay, so we've tested all that. And to this day, I still do not have a driver's license. Okay? I have an expired one here. Wait a minute. This is what I travel with. That's the hotel key. Oh, here it is. Sorry. This is my identification card. It says identification card on it. And I told you my given name, right? Federico Roberto Gutierrez. Jr. Okay? And on my ID card it says Fred Gutierrez. Because according to my First Amendment right, I have the right to call me by whatever name I choose. I have that right. If somebody says, this is my name, did they take away my right? Yes, they did. So, this is my name. On the back, it's signed by a notary of the state that says, subscribed and sworn to me or affirmed on this day in October by Fred Gutierrez. He has proven that on basis of what? That's tiny writing. Yeah, see, she handles all the paperwork. It says this is the living man. It says proof that there's sufficient evidence that the living man is who it is, who he says he is before me. The living man, not a corporate entity. Why is yours all in capital letters? And we'll talk about that this afternoon. So, I fly with this with TSA and everything. I've only got a couple trouble once or twice. That's just because I didn't want him to touch my groin. Sexual assault. I have the right to be private in my privates and my personal areas and my things. Okay, and I should have the right that I can only allow whoever I want to allow to look down the front of my shorts. Okay, not some guy. Hey. These TSA guys, I'm telling you what, male assist. Please. You know this is really gay. I've got people taking pictures with their iPhone and sending them to your family right now. Oh! Don't you feel a little faggy down there? And then they touch me fast. So I wear sweats and I wear shorts and a tight shirt. And you know what? I'll tell these guys, I don't know what it is with them sometimes. They're like, oh, wow, is that all you? Oh. How do you get that butt like that? Man, mine's kind of like hanging in the dumpster, but man, how do you do that? Hold on a second there. Is that all right? I say, easy, easy. I'm going to come around to the front now. Oh, God, please. Could you stand out a little farther there? Oh, that's nice. So when the shorts are only like up to here, so there's not much they can do, right? So the guy says, are you traveling with somebody? I go, yeah, my wife. He says, can we bring you over here? And I was like, as long as it's still in the public. So I kind of stand there like this, and I pull my shorts up a little bit so it comes up like a V like this. The guy's going, I was like, that's gay. That is really, really gay. Gay alert, opt out, gay alert. Anyway, we got more fun stuff this afternoon. I hope you guys got enough so far. We'll break into it. I hope you learned something and enjoying it.